Okay, $700 billion. Seriously, take a second and just let that massive number sink in. That staggering figure is exactly what big tech is estimated to spend this year alone on AI infrastructure. It's this massive, record-breaking wager that is literally carrying the weight of the entire US economy right now. But what if I told you that the success of this bet actually has almost nothing to do with code and everything to do with concrete, copper wires, and, well, the physical limits of the actual real world we live in? Tearing down what is probably the most misunderstood narrative in tech right now. You know, you've probably heard endless debates about whether AI is a bubble or if some chatbot that can't even count the letters in the word strawberry is going to take your job. But honestly, that is completely missing the point. The single biggest threat to America's AI dominance, it isn't the software, it's energy. It's the very physical bottleneck of American infrastructure.
So let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to look at this entire AI industry through the lens of a high-stakes race between two totally incompatible clocks. We'll cover the $700 billion wager, the 8-year power wait, the AI chip expiration, and finally, what happens when two clocks collide. Starting off with part one, the $700 billion wager. So to really put this in perspective, tech infrastructure spending right now is nearly doubling every single year. It crossed from $200 billion to an estimated $700 billion in absolute record time. And honestly, it's practically holding the economy up all by itself. Just listen to this quote from George Cavellos, the head of FX research at Deutsche Bank. He points out that without this tech-related spending, the US would likely be hovering right around a recession this year. So the real bet here isn't whether AI is some cool futuristic technology. The real bet is whether this massive capital investment can physically deliver the technology on schedule. Because right now, nobody is actually making real money on this infrastructure. Investors are totally fine funding these losses for the moment, but eventually, that capital needs a return on investment. If AI is late, well, the capital gets impatient. Which brings us to part two, the 8-year power wait. Let's call this clock one, the grid. Wall Street absolutely loves to say, invest in the picks and shovels. But here's the massive catch with that. America is quite literally running out of picks and shovels.
Because here's the thing, you can't just build a massive data center, plug it into the wall, and ask the grid nicely for some electricity. It doesn't work like that. Instead, you have to join something called the interconnection queue. Think of it kind of like the DMV, but for electricity. Now, back in 2008, the wait time to get access to America's largest power grid was under 2 years. Today, that wait has stretched to over 8 years. And keep in mind, data centers don't use power like a normal office building that, goes to sleep at night and powers down on weekends. They run at full blast, around the clock, 365 days a year. Because of this, by 2035, these facilities are expected to swallow up a full 20% of all US electricity consumption.
And you literally cannot just throw money at this problem to make it go faster because the physical supply chain is completely broken. Just look at the raw data. The main workhorse of this build-out is the gas turbine. Now, only a few companies on Earth can even make them. GE Vernova, which is one of the biggest, is pretty much sold out through the end of 2028. Transformers, they take 2.5 years to get, and there's currently a 30% shortage. New transmission lines, you're looking at 6.5 years just to navigate the permitting and the backlogs. This situation has made companies so insanely desperate that developers are reportedly paying $25 million just to reserve a place in line for a turbine. Some are literally bolting retired airplane jet engines to the ground just to makeshift the power they need. It's wild.
So what happens when all this new, incredibly desperate demand hits a grid that basically hasn't grown? Prices absolutely explode. Take PJM Interconnection. They're the largest grid operator in America. Once a year, they hold a capacity auction. It's basically a billion-dollar pinky promise, an insurance policy where they pay power plants to guarantee they'll actually have electricity on the worst weather days of the year, like a massive heat wave or a brutal winter freeze. Historically, because power demand was flat for a long time, this insurance was dirt cheap, about $29 per megawatt day. But then the data centers arrived. The most recent auction cleared at nearly $270. That is an 830% spike. The total regional bill jumped from $2.2 billion to a staggering $14.7 billion.
And here is exactly why this matters to you directly. Big tech doesn't just eat that cost. Oh no, it flows straight down into your everyday utility bills. For an average household in Maryland, which sits right on this grid, their electric bill went up by nearly $250 a year. An independent watchdog actually looked at that recent $16.4 billion auction cost and found that roughly $6.5 billion of it traces directly back to data centers. That means 40 cents of every single capacity dollar you pay is being heavily driven by these AI warehouses. But, waiting is only survivable if the thing doing the waiting doesn't have an expiration date. Which brings us to part 3, the AI chip expiration. This is clock 2. So the crucial point is that the entire purpose of these data centers is to house specialized semiconductor chips that train AI. But there is a massive mismatch between the building itself and the hardware inside it. Great infrastructure, like the transformers, the turbines, the transmission lines, that stuff ages like a bridge. It lasts for decades. But the cutting-edge AI chips inside the data center, they age like a smartphone. Think of that one relative who absolutely refuses to upgrade their 5-year-old phone and everything just runs in slow motion. A cutting-edge AI chip is only cutting edge for about 2 to 6 years before newer, faster chips arrive and the old ones just slide into being practically worthless. And this super short lifespan triggers a massive accounting game behind the scenes. It all comes down to depreciation. Now, when a company buys an expensive machine, they don't take the financial hit all at once. They spread the cost across the years the machine stays useful, its useful life. If you stretch that useful life out, your annual expenses drop, which magically makes your profits look bigger today. But if you shrink the timeline, your profits take a hit. Famous investor Michael Burry, the guy from The Big Short, he claims that tech giants are actually hiding billions in expenses by artificially extending the official useful life of these AI chips right on their balance sheets. And this brilliantly illustrates how messy this gets in practice when nobody can even agree on how long these chips actually last. Back in early 2024, Amazon decided its servers would last 6 years, which instantly boosted their reported profit by $2.5 billion. But then, literally 12 months later, they walked it back to 5 years, blaming the fast pace of AI. Meanwhile, Meta looked at the exact same market and went in the complete opposite direction. They extended their servers to 5.5 years, instantly reducing their costs by almost $3 billion. And NVIDIA, the company that actually makes the chips, they say 4 to 6 years. It's essentially a kindergarten game of he said, she said, but with billions of dollars in reported corporate earnings just hanging in the balance.
Okay, let's move to part 4 and see how this all builds up. When 2 clocks collide, the infrastructure clash. So what actually happens when our really slow power clock and our incredibly fast chip clock fall completely out of sync?
Well, we're already seeing it. Goldman Sachs ran the numbers on how often data centers actually open on schedule, especially given all these supply chain nightmares. And they found that if you look 2 years out, they expect only 50% of promised capacity to actually arrive on time. It is a literal coin flip. That means billions of dollars in grid infrastructure could finally arrive years late, ready to power chips that have already become totally obsolete. And the longer-term forecast? It's even more alarming. Bloomberg's energy research arm ran 2 models side by side. One looking at how much data center capacity America should be building based on AI chip sales, versus how much America can actually physically power. By 2033, they project a massive shortfall, a staggering gap of 63 gigawatts. To really wrap your head around that number, you need this bit of context. Every single operational data center in America today, every server rack, every cooling fan, all of it combined, adds up to just a little over 40 gigawatts. So to deliver the future that big tech has already spent $700 billion on, America has to find a way to power a gap that is 1.5 times larger than every single data center that currently exists. And we have to do it on a grid that, as we talked about, is already operating with an 8-year waitlist. The math doesn't just look bad. Physically, it looks absolutely impossible.
And this brings us to the ultimate kind of uncomfortable paradox we're left with. How did we get so backed up in the first place? It isn't because AI is failing, it's because it's succeeding. Every time AI improves, demand floods the grid, making the line for power longer, which slows clock 1 down. But at the exact same time, every breakthrough in AI hardware basically buries the generation of chips that came before it, killing their value faster, which speeds clock 2 up. AI's very own success is what winds both clocks against each other. Which leaves us with this final provocative question. As we pour hundreds of billions of dollars into the digital realm, will AI's rapid success be exactly what breaks its own physical foundations? Will the tech bubble of our generation be popped not by some failure of code, but by a simple shortage of concrete, copper, and time? Well, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes on the grid, and I'll catch you next time.